And I showed you the Heisman odds a week or two ago, and they had Garrett Nussmeier as the second favorite behind Manning. So Brian Kelly's very excited to have Garrett back at school.
He is no athlete, in my opinion. You can quote me on that. Like, he is a clumsy white dude, and he sucked. Like, I'm being nice now. Now all of a sudden you're talking about him being great? Oh, slow down there, Coach.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Devin Booker, do you know, in those 2 years, actually makes more in his salary than the entire Miami Marlins payroll this year, which I think is at like $62 million. That's a 72.5. I'm just doing the math really quickly. So one guy's worth more than 25, but we know how bad the Miami Marlins is. But hey, I just talk hoops.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
No superstar wants to go to Portland there, so you go, oh, well, Dame actually wants to be back here, and this is going to hurt us. It sort of brings back those vibes where Kobe Bryant was in L.A. Great basketball player, horrendous basketball team, but maybe he could sell a couple extra seats and be a star in the building. That's Dame. And also from a perspective of what Dame wants, Dame just doesn't care about championships, and that's okay. Like, he makes a lot of money. He can do that and continue to lose in Portland. Can have it both ways, I guess.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Really would love to know what Jawan Jennings is after. If I were San Francisco, I'd hate to lose him. Not that I think he's ever going to be their best receiver on this football team, but you have a lot of question marks, right? We don't know how good Ricky Pearsall is yet.
We are asking, like, if Ayuk comes back and is healthy, if McCaffrey can be healthy, all these things. So why not just take the thing that you know works and just keep it?
Game time decisions, only on Sport.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire. Off to a new week. Thanks for tuning into the show. We got plenty to cover here. An amazing finish once again for the best golfer in the world. Scottie Scheffler, we'll hear from him after winning the Open Championship. Also, Pat Evans joins us from Legal Sports Report with the very latest going on across the country. We have the National Football League about to take center stage. Training camps opening all across the country. Jacob Camenker weighs in, and also Tom Vecchio with the latest of Major League Baseball's odds. We'll go over some plays tonight as well. So let's get started here as we begin the show. And truly an incredible performance once again at Royal Portrush. I mean, Scottie Scheffler is just the golfer that cannot be stopped at this point. Wins another major championship, and this time takes home the British Open and the Claret Jug. As you can see there, wasn't exactly wire to wire because there were some other golfers in contention on day one and day two. But Scheffler essentially dominated the field on Saturday, dominated the field again on Sunday, and is pulling off major wins like nobody else maybe in the history of golf. I mean, that really is like Tiger Woods. Days in between Woods' first and fourth major championship, 1,197. And basically the same thing for Scottie Scheffler, by the way. First and fourth major win, 1,197. He's been dominant. He's been great, although he did have one issue on the golf course on Sunday, and actually mentioned that in his post-round championship media availability.
Yeah, it's a very special feeling. It takes a lot of work to get to this point in my career, and this was a tough week. It was challenging. The golf course was playing really tough, and I had to focus very hard over the course of the weekend. And really the only blemish over the last 36 holes was the double on 8, but did a good job of kind of resetting and coming back with a birdie on 9. And I guess this one was different than the PGA in terms of, I had a decent lead to start the day, but PGA I felt like I struggled a bit on the front 9, and then was able to kind of push forward and win it on the back 9, whereas this one I felt like I built up a lead. It got a little close there after the double on 8, but like I said, bounced back on 9 and was able to keep a pretty sizable lead for most of the day.
Big news in the National Football League off the field. Players Association President and Chief Strategy Officer J.C. Tretter announced that he's stepping down from the union, also removing himself from consideration to be interim executive director, saying that the toll on his family became too great and doesn't have anything left to give in the organization. Certainly the NFLPA has had their issues, league grievances, Howell's reimbursements for some reported strip club outings as mistruths cast against him, some internal backlash. Treader leaves the NFLPA for good. Meanwhile, New York City pawn shop owner Dmitry Nazinski has pleaded guilty to conspiring to receive stolen property, including luxury watches, jewelry, and handbags from high-profile burglaries. You may have heard this happening all across the country, players playing in their games on the road and having their homes broken into. One of them is Joe Burrow, whose home was ransacked on December 9, 2024, while he played in Dallas. He and a co-conspirator at this point are in some huge heat for selling a lot of the memorabilia, including some homes of athletes like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Luka Doncic, Mike Conley Jr. among them. In Major League Baseball yesterday, the best pitcher in the game just keeps on shoving. That is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers. 6 2/3 yesterday, 11 strikeouts. The Tigers beat the Texas Rangers by a final of 2-1. Also, the Blue Jays have won their 10th straight home game as they defeat the Giants by a final score of 8-6. Toronto and New York battling toe-to-toe. Red Sox are in the mix for the East as well. Speaking of those Yankees, how about Aaron Judge yesterday going deep? 36th home run of the season as the Yankees beat the Braves by a final of 4-2. The series did not get off to the start the Yankees wanted, but as Aaron Judge said, doesn't matter how you start, manage how you finish.
That's what it's all about. You want to win every game, but, we didn't come out the way we wanted to the first night, and kind of started a little slow the second night, but, the team warmed up, got ready to go, and just a lot of gritty at-bats, a lot of gritty performances from our pitchers, some big spots when we needed them, and, a big series win, and, especially going into Toronto, who's leading the division, it's a good time to start getting hot.
Throw the way he did today.
Impressive. Just the way he's able to command both sides of the plate. I felt like he was really working the inside corner wall to lefties, which, you go up and down that lineup, man. They got some guys that can, hit for power, hit for average, make things happen. So it's a tricky lineup to navigate, and he was on today, man. That was fun to watch.
And also the Houston Astros salvaged Game 3 in Seattle, beating the Mariners by a final of 11-3. The hottest team in Major League Baseball right now, unequivocally, the Milwaukee Brewers. They go to Los Angeles and sweep. They've now won 10 straight games. The Brewers chasing down the Cubs in the National League Central for first place. Despite the heroics of Shohei Ohtani this weekend, the Brewers were just better. Meanwhile, Freddie Freeman exited a game yesterday after being hit in the wrist. But the good news, Dave Roberts said afterward, is that it looks like nothing is broken.
X-rays were negative. So obviously when you see him walk off the field like that, very concerning, but the X-rays were negative, so that's a positive. I think just putting him in the day-to-day category is probably where we're at right now.
And then, of course, the losing is frustrating and starting to build on each other, but when you have an injury scare like that, does it just feel like one thing after another right now?
That one, I held my breath. I think we all did, because, when you're scuffling and to potentially lose a guy for 4 to 6 weeks is obviously very scary. But, exhaled, sigh of relief after hearing that it was negative. And, to lose him longer would have been really tough to overcome. But so we dodged a bullet there. And I don't know how he's going to come out of today, but see how he comes in tomorrow. But if not, then we'll have rushing at first base.
A quiet, successful season for Juan Soto continued on Sunday. He scored the game-winning run in the 8th inning, and the Mets end up beating the Cincinnati Reds by a final of 3-2. Soto talked about the game-winning run and what went into the outcome.
What is the key in that spot to successfully completing that on a hard-hit ground ball there?
For me, first of all, just you got to get the momentum going. I was going in contact, so I was trying to make sure I'm ready to whenever he hit the ball, I'm just going.
When you get that momentum, Manny was talking a little bit about the types of leads and the secondary lead. What is the process like for you to make sure that you get that momentum at the right time?
I mean, just keep your feet moving. Be focused on the contact, on the swing. Make sure whenever the swing is coming, your foot is landing, and be ready to go. That's all you got. And then after that, just put your head down and try to score.
In the American League West, the Angels continue to hang around 500. Maybe they'll stay in this thing from start to finish. Taylor Ward, 4 RBIs. The Angels beat the Phillies 8-2. A very rare scuffle from pitcher Ranger Suarez, who gave up 6 earned runs. Rob Thompson, manager of the Phillies, said his off-speed stuff wasn't good enough.
Yeah, or stuff. Couldn't find his changeup either. So not a whole lot of swing and miss, which is unusual for him. But yeah, basically it was his command.
You've been asked about it a lot, but the velocity was down again. Is that of any concern?
I mean, if it was down a tick. And I don't have concern if he's got his command because he can pitch. He just didn't have his command today.
What's your take on that pitch to Trout in the second?
Looking at it now, it looks like it was a strike.
I think a year from now, if that rule comes in, somebody's tapping their head on that.
Probably.
Rob, I know he didn't do much, but did the rain delay possibly affect him?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so because he was just playing catch when it happened. Then he went and sat down and waited for the rain to stop and then got going again. Certainly didn't help Soriano or didn't hurt Soriano.
We'll talk more NFL with Jacob Camenker coming up in just a few minutes from USA Today, but some bigger news in the NBA as it looks like, according to ESPN, Chris Paul, future Hall of Famer, will return for a 21st season in the league. He signed a 1-year deal with the Los Angeles Clippers. Coming up next, Tom Vecchio joins us. We'll go over the latest in Major League Baseball when we return right after this.
New to social casinos? You're in for a treat. Most online casinos offer bonus cash or coins just for signing up. That's your own little participation trophy. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Aaron Judge is great, but if you want to talk about full contributions to a team, maybe I'm biased as a former catcher myself, but I think Cal Raleigh's working a little bit harder than everybody else, and I think Cal Raleigh should be right in this thing. If he sets that single-season home run record for a catcher, I think that's probably what it's going to take for him to overtake Judge. I don't think it's impossible for him to get there. I think it's unlikely.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
The tennis players are just the worst. They're just the worst.
I do that after I get a parlay. I'm falling to the ground. I'm excited. I'm like praising the Lord. Win a parlay. Come on. They're allowed to celebrate.
I'd rather, it's okay if you hit a parlay, yes. But if you win the match, no. The player can't do that. The bettor can. It's as simple as that.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
TJ Watt going to the bench.
I don't remember the last time he had a sack in the last month of that season. And then in the playoffs, he did absolutely nothing. And then you're going to give him $41 million a year, $123 million, what, 108 million guaranteed?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Let's bring in Tom Vecchio for the latest in Major League Baseball here on our Monday edition of the show. Tom, great to have you back here on NewsWire, talking some Major League Baseball. We'll go over some games tonight, but first let's recap what happened on Sunday. And not a huge surprise. It seems like he's doing this every game, but Tarek Skubal, another incredible performance. I mean, almost going 7-8 innings again, striking out a ton. I mean, I kind of felt like the Tigers really wanted that win. They haven't been playing their best baseball over the last week or so. They reached the 60 mark, though, with Skubal on the mound. Certainly I would think that he's going to win the Cy Young, but I mean, I guess when you look at Crochet's numbers, too, they're pretty incredible. But I mean, I would assume Scooble, the reason the odds are minus 250 and not minus 500 is because if something would happen physically, it could change the landscape quickly and would make Crochet the favorite. But beyond that, I see no way that he drops this.
Right, and as I've kind of mentioned before across various shows on SportsGrid, part of the Cy Young, at least in my mind, like there's a bit of narrative to it that people like to buy into, or kind of, I don't want to say push a narrative, but the fact that he's doing what he did last year, but better, and is now in a spot to repeat. Like there's something to be said that is always going to garner some attention. It's also just good to see that he is leading this team with all the injuries that they've had, the inconsistency at the bottom half of the rotation, whatever it might be, the young pitchers, that he is leading them to not only having him personally individually great season, but also the best record in the league potentially, which is something that you can't say necessarily about Crochet and the Red Sox. So when it comes to a numbers perspective, obviously Crochet could be there with anybody in the league. Skeens, Wheeler, doesn't matter what league that they're in, but also the team being amazing is also something to take note of.
All right, so let's take a look at the upcoming matchup in the American League that everybody will have their eye on. It is the Blue Jays and the Yankees. The Blue Jays swept the Giants. Giants are falling apart. Blue Jays keep winning at home. The Astros finally win a game in Seattle. They needed that, although they do have a pretty significant lead, I think, in the West. And the home run race is heating up. Cal Raleigh 38, but Aaron Judge hit his 36th yesterday. I guess we could start with Toronto. I mean, this is a very big surprise to me, Tom. I did not see the Blue Jays at the beginning of the season being this good. It's been a while. I certainly hope they put their foot in the pedal next week.
Yeah, and at this point, the odds, I would say this, as I've said before, like if you didn't bet on the Blue Jays before this hot streak that they went on, like you kind of missed the boat. I don't think plus 135 is a good enough price to bet on them at this point currently. If you have them at 5-1, 10-1, whatever it might be, congrats. But for anyone else that doesn't have them, I honestly wouldn't be betting on them. Frankly, when it comes to this series versus the Yankees these next 3 days, the fact that we're getting plus money on the Blue Jays tonight is at least rather interesting. I think Rodon might be the better pitcher this season compared to Gausman. But if we're getting plus money on a team as hot as the Blue Jays are when they're at home, you might as well just take the plus money in 2 out of the 3 games where it might be and move on.
Now, I think that when you look at the line here, let's take a look at the updated odds here. We have, as you mentioned, Yankees tonight, minus 120. But, Tom, you look at this total of 8.5. Rodon's ERA is a 3. Gausman's ERA just over 4. I mean, these are 2 guys that can get deep into games. I wonder if this will be a low-scoring one tonight.
I would lean on the under. I know the Yanks historically have gotten to Gausman. It seems like on an every other start basis, he can go 5 innings with 6 strikeouts and 1 earned run, or he's going 3 innings with 5 earned runs. Just the way the Blue Jays have been playing overall, and really it's the fact of the lack of scoring from the Yankees is what I think is most concerning. I don't see this as a high-scoring series. I know we got 1 million runs when they played like a month ago, whenever it was, right before the break. But this is like a playoff-type environment, high stakes, pushing right before the deadline. I want to see some, just from a fan perspective, give me some games that end like 3-2, 3-1.
Could be. All right. Is Pat Murphy going to win Manager of the Year again here? My gosh, the Brewers have won 10 straight games. Every year they're in the mix, but I mean, no one this good here. Going to LA, beating the Dodgers 3 in a row. Dodgers have lost 6 games in a row, Tom, at this point at home, which you almost never see. Mets and Phillies have a tough weekend, but again, it's July. Can't really worry about that. Diamondbacks did sweep the Cardinals and have pushed themselves, I think, at least back in the discussion to potentially make the playoffs, Tom, because as the Diamondbacks have won, the Giants have fallen flat on their face. Man, the fans are really upset with what's going on in San Francisco.
Yeah, when it comes to the Brewers, not only did they sweep the Dodgers, they also swept them prior to the All-Star break. So they swept the season series. And frankly, the Brewers are obviously in a spot now to compete for the NL Central. And this is a spot that, Pat Murphy should be in consideration for Manager of the Year. So that is certainly an interesting argument. The Diamondbacks, like you said, are surging right now. And it really puts into consideration what the Giants are doing moving forward over the next 10 days leading up to the All-Star break, because their offense has been, let's just call it what it is, pretty dreadful since acquiring Rafi Devers. And if they can't score on the road, I don't know how they're going to be scoring at home. And the Mets and the Phillies, they're going to be constantly flip-flopping back and forth. And I really continuously think that the Mets need to shove all in when it comes to getting pitching help. It's great to see Senga back. He's on the mound tonight. Sean Manaea was back yesterday. It's his second start of the season, but they still do not have enough pitching depth, in my opinion, to push things over. I think their hitting will eventually come through.
Freddie Freeman last night hit by a pitch in the game. Dave Roberts says that X-rays were negative. It was probably going to cost him at least a day or 2 or 3. We'll see. Updated standings in the West are, let's just call it shocking, that the Dodgers, who not even maybe on pace to win 100 games, Tom, highest win total on the board at like 110, 112. They're just 4 games ahead of the Padres. If the Giants had just not lost a ton of games in a row, they'd be right there too. Arizona's 50-50. We know the Rockies stink. Okay, so it's probably a 2-team race, I would say, to win the division. But is there concern for LA at this point, or is it like one of these sleepwalking teams during the regular season where it just doesn't matter?
At this point, I think there has to be concern. Freddie Freeman's hurt. Mookie's having a terrible season, right? And he's been significantly bad as of late. Max Muncy's still out. And when he comes back, their lineup would be at full strength, but that's yet to be seen. And then does he come back? How long does it take to get back in the rhythm? Pages was having a great first half this season. He really hasn't put it all together as of late. Todd Yenman was explosive to start the year. Then he got hurt. And they just haven't put all the pieces together at the same time. So on paper, are the Dodgers still the best team? Sure, I think we'd all agree with that. But if they're constantly mix-matching lineups, players in and out, players struggling, hurt, whatever it might be, I think there really has to be some level of concern.
Tom, great stuff as always. Have a great rest of your day. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up next, NFL training camps are underway. The preseason, folks, begins next week. The NFL preseason, the Hall of Fame game begins next week. So we'll go around the league next when we return on NewsWire. Don't go away.
Against him, I'm not surprised that he had no back down in his game, because he is a player that plays with confidence and swag, and it was really cool to see him get the job done, and the emotion at the 18th green with the interview with Amanda, especially for like a really kind of like Jersey boy.
Tough
Good to see a little emotion
with the gold necklace. You're like, oh, what's going on here? Yeah,
Sure.
that was super cool.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Her ability to defend, shoot the 3, rebound, pass the ball, and on a team that is awful. Right now, training to get the #1 overall pick if they win the WNBA lottery. Possibly to draft her buddy AZ Fudd, maybe. But when you look at Paige Beckers is a top 10 player in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Seiya Suzuki and Pete Crow Armstrong, this is the first time the Cubs have ever had 2 players reach 25 home runs before the team's 95th game. I thought that was a stunningly odd statistic that you would have just thought, well, the Cubs, storied franchise, all these big superstars that they've had, and even superstar tandems, they've never been this good, and they continue to be that, man. They are just continuing to hammer the baseball. Pete Crow Armstrong, what an incredible trade that's worked out to be for the Chicago Cubs.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
Shohei Ohtani can do something that nobody else in Major League Baseball can do. That means being maybe one of, if not the top 5 best hitters in baseball, and then go on the mound and throw some gems out here. Like, he threw 9 innings so far in his season, which isn't a lot, but that ERA is at 1. Are we saying that once he gets to 5 and 6 innings, that ERA is going to stay at 1? No, it isn't. But if it does, my goodness. I mean, just hand him the Cy Young on top of it as well. It's cheating.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Wouldn't you know, NFL training camps opening up all across the country. As I just mentioned, we've got NFL preseason action beginning with the Hall of Fame game next week. Let's go around the league and check in on a couple of coaches and players as well. It's time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. Let's start off in Los Angeles, where expectations, the bar has been raised. Jim Harbaugh comes in pretty good first year with the Los Angeles Chargers. Needless to say, training camp opening for the Chargers. They're hoping to make some more I would say, noise in the West as well. Kind of tough, of course, in a good division already with the Chiefs and maybe the Broncos as well. Let's check in on Coach Khakis to hear his excitement level with his players back on the field.
Oh, so excited. It's emotional. Just really fired up, and I just keep telling myself, mind over nervous system. My mind is smarter than my nervous system, and I'm gonna see if I can't get through the whole day and with not being emotionally hijacked. But it's emotional in a great way. It always is. The first day, boom, here we go, and mainly I want the players to get the message of that. Really, today's practice is going to be like mini camp 2, mini camp 3, day 3. So it's an extension of that. I'd like to treat it like we never left and be like mini camp, veteran mandatory mini camp number 4 today. That's the mindset that I want our players to have. So as much as I can, I'm trying to be in that mindset, not let my emotions and excitement get the best of me.
Weather around the country getting hot. There's no doubt about that. Here in South Florida, we're looking at over 100. It's also hot in the Midwest as well. So that, of course, means camp opens in Kansas City, Missouri, with Andy Reid back as another season as Kansas City's head coach. Training camp can be tough, especially with the tough weather. Here's Reid on the grind as things open up this week.
Andy, you're always come up here expecting the grind. Is there anything you could describe that's different about coming in after losing the Super Bowl and was winning the last 2 and last year's mindset?
Yeah, no, this part stays tough. I mean, it's never an easy camp, and it builds you a foundation that you can bank on. So it's important that the guys come in the right frame of mind. They know that, and they pass the word down to the young guys that they better be ready to go. But that helps us in the long haul.
There's several reports of George Karlaftis signing a contract extension. What would it mean to be able to sign him to a long-term deal for this organization?
Yeah, that would be a great deal. I think that's already done. Just so if you need some breaking news, that's a great thing. And he's a heck of a player, and he's done a great job here, and he's profiting from that. And our team also is profiting from him being around. So it's a win-win there.
4-year deal is being reported for Karlaftis. Meanwhile, it's a new day and a new era of Detroit Lions football. Ben Johnson, who was so fantastic running the offense over the last several years, is gone. He is now in Chicago. So what does that mean for Jahmyr Gibbs and company in Detroit? Here's Gibbs on life without Ben Johnson in Detroit.
Jahmyr, it's early, but what's your sense of the offense so far as you guys are transitioning away from Ben and John? Yeah. Are there a lot of similarities or a lot of different?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff is the same. Some stuff is obviously going to change, but it looks good so far. So that's all I'm saying. Yeah.
So you think this sets you up for an even bigger year? You had a big year last year, but an even bigger one. Is your role expanding more?
Yeah, I mean, whatever they want me to do, I'm willing to do it. I just want to win the Super Bowl ultimately. So, they told me that I'm going to, line up at safety some this year. So I'll be doing that little nickel. So.
Hey, Josh, one of the things that Dan was saying to us this morning was that the offensive line is one of the areas he's really keeping an eye on. How does it change for you guys in your position, you and Timo? You guys there, and what kind of acclimation period might there be?
They're all being taught by the same, Hank. So, pretty much everything's going to be the same. So, I'm not really worried about it too much. I'm confident in them, and I got trust in them. So, I think it's going to be fine.
Could be an interesting year in Detroit. We'll see how their offense transitions. All right, coming up next after the break, for those of you in Missouri getting ready to bet on sports in December, probably good news for you. Will there be good news in Oklahoma? We'll also dive into the latest in California as well, with a lot of intrigue over daily fantasy sweepstakes games. We have Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report up next. Don't go away. think that there's a possibility that we could be looking at DeBoer wondering if he's the long-term answer at coach for the Tide?
I'm starting to feel like Alabama, I can't believe I'm saying this, Craig, is a sleeper. Fourth easiest schedule in the SEC this year. Ryan Williams is back. I think the friendly, these early season games against Florida State and Wisconsin, that is friendly for Alabama.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Sick and tired of seeing tennis players fall to the ground in disbelief, like they captured the Rubik's Cube here. It's take it easy. You won 6-love, 6-2, 6-3. I mean, it's not like it's dramatic. I did today, but I'm saying, I see that guys do that all the time, and women do that. It's relax. You won in straight sets. It was a foregone conclusion an hour ago. Stop pretending like it was a dramatic victory.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You are going to bank on Luka Doncic, who is a phenomenal talent, but his defense has been questioned, his work ethic, his time has been questioned, and his conditioning has been questioned. Name me one time in his 23-year career that you've questioned one of those three things about LeBron James.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Everybody also is going to know the name Yuri Perez next year because Yuri Perez, obviously in fantasy circles, is a guy that we've been excited about for a while. Burst onto the scene a couple years ago, was electric, was fantastic. Then Tommy John, and we've been waiting for him ever since. And, all of a sudden the last couple stars starting to look like the Yuri Perez that I know I was very excited about drafting going into this season. And he has been brilliant.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
What would a Monday be without Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report to dive into the latest sports wagering stories from the weekend and give us a preview of all of the information that you could read over at LegalSportsReport.com. Let's bring in Pat. Pat, great to have you back here on this edition of NewsWire. Pat's favorite day of the week is Monday. So
Who doesn't love Monday, Craig?
Who doesn't love Monday? Who doesn't love a good Monday here on the show? All right. So sports bettors in Missouri are going to have the NFL preseason come and go, and then the regular season and college football come and go. They're going to have to wait till December, but it does appear that any small fighting, or I should say probably infighting in the state to try and push things back or stop it, it feels like December 1st, the first bets will be placed in Missouri.
I think that's a safe bet at this point, Craig. Last week was a big week for the process to get to that legally defined day that it has to start by, which is December 1st. And that's when the Missouri Gaming Commission has said it will start. They've decided that they're going to take all the time it can to take to launch, which, in a lot of other states we've seen, expedite that and launch quicker. But here we are. But last week, again, was a huge step in the right direction. You had a couple of deadlines. You had the tethered or the untethered license applications that were due. I mentioned last week that we had DraftKings and FanDuel apply to those. Now, what actually happened too was later the Missouri Gaming Commission confirmed that Circa Sports also had turned in a application post-dated or postmarked for that July 15th date. So Circa is also in the running for one of those two untethered licenses. That, of course, means you don't have to partner with one of the state's casinos or sports teams and share revenue and the like. So you're looking at more money ultimately than if you were just to partner like that. So those two licenses will be issued probably August 15th is the date they've said they'll announce it. There's a hearing that those three operators will be able to go in front of the commission and discuss at that point. Also last week in Missouri, written public comments for the rules were due. And that's interesting because, back in February, Secretary of State Denny Hoskins, who had played the role of, an opponent, a major opponent, killing it basically 3 years in a row in the legislature, he said, no, you can't have emergency rules, which would have allowed them to get it up and running probably this summer before the sports or the football season. So that's kind of a neat focus is now we're through that, because then on Thursday there was a hearing that would have allowed the people who commented submitted written comments to, stand in front of the commission, explain themselves, maybe answer questions if they needed. Not one comment as they read line by line through all the rules was made. So, it does look like, sure, there were probably quite a few written comments, which we'll know probably in the next couple of days. They probably weren't major enough that made, all these operators stand up and say, hey, this really needs to be changed, or else, it's going to be a big problem. So we're through that hurdle. Those rules go into effect August 30th. More, if an operator is tethered to a casino or sports team and wants to launch by that December 1 date, they have to get those in, the applications in by September 12th. So all these dates are quickly coming up and passing by. So, gosh, for as long as I've been coming on this show, Craig, we've been talking about Missouri and when they're going to legalize sports betting. Back when I first started coming on, we were talking about who's going to legalize first, Kansas or Missouri. Well, Kansas got it done, 4 years ago almost now. So it's been a while for people in Missouri, and here we finally are, right, knocking on the door for them to have sports betting. They must be pretty excited.
It should be a few months away and prime time in the National Football League and in college football as well. Okay, so, listen, we're probably going to go the whole year without legalizing any other state, but at least we have some updates when some things move in different directions. And another one to explore today is Oklahoma. I know that the tribes will be very, very heavily involved in some of these states in the Midwest and out west as well, if it does end up happening. What's the latest there?
Yeah, so the Oklahoma Indian Gaming Association is having one of their annual shows, and they're talking about things. And of course, sports betting is a big deal when it comes to the gaming community. And I mean, the tribes in Oklahoma have gaming exclusivity. They have a say in what sports betting is going to look like. Now, if you've been listening to me when I come on the show, we talk a lot about Oklahoma, especially this year. The tribes do want it, but of course they want exclusivity, which is not a surprise as they do have gaming exclusivity. Governor Kevin Stitt, on the other hand, back in 2020, when he first took office, or right after he first took office, said, you know what, I want to legalize sports betting. I'm going to do it through two compacts, and then we're going to see if we can open up the commercial market. Those amended compacts were later deemed illegal, and we've now been in kind of a stagnated stalemate between the tribes and Stitt, so much so that Stitt's own Republican Party have long gone kind of against him, said, at one point maybe we'll even take over the negotiations and kick him completely out of the tribal relations situation. Doesn't matter. This year we got, a couple bills that were introduced, largely supported by the Oklahoma Indian Gaming Association. Those got as far as they'd ever gotten, just short of a Senate vote out of the House. So, it's probably 75% of the way there. Even so, Stitt said, you know what, if any of these bills get through, I'm going to veto them. Well, they didn't end up getting through, so it was not that big of a deal. One of them even would have kind of circumvented him and gone to the ballot instead, but it doesn't matter. Back to the Indian gaming shows I mentioned, they've been big discussions, and they're kind of putting the target to 2026 or 2027 when Stitt is voted out. There was a recent local article that had, comments from two different gubernatorial candidates for 2026 saying this is important. We need to give our tribes more leverage. We need to give them more assets to thrive, and kind of looking towards, okay, whoever is governor next understands the tribes want this, understand that's how it's going to get done, understand Oklahomans probably want sports betting because most of the rest of the country has it. And so here we are at a spot where, pretty much everybody except for Kevin Stitt, and even Kevin Stitt, the governor, has said, I want it. I just want commercial entities involved. So again, push-pull, but at this point, I think with him in office, it's not going to get done. We're going to have to wait until whoever is the new governor in Oklahoma comes in, and then you'll very likely, very quickly see sports betting in Oklahoma.
Yeah, and not that far away either. So, within reason. Okay, so let's get to California here, the state to watch to see if they just hang on to any kind of fun gaming, like sweepstakes gone and daily fantasy gone. It's a couple of years ago, we're sitting here in the summer of July, all kinds of ads to legalize sports betting, which was the pinnacle of getting closer, and then everything has gone the other way since.
Yeah, it's a really interesting kind of dichotomy there. You've got the tribes who want to control it just like Oklahoma, and they've done a great job of keeping that monopoly there. And now this year you're seeing a lot more. They do want eventually sports betting, but they want to control it mostly for the future of online casino. And now you're seeing them crack down and push the government to say, hey, DFS needs to be like kind of cracked down. You've seen the Attorney General come out and say, nope, those aren't legal. And now you've seen a lot of those operators go peer to peer. And here you have the DFS or the online sweepstakes prohibition bill that has now been introduced. It's passed 2 committees. Initially, it included something that the word person, which would have meant, celebrities who endorse them, like Ryan Seacrest, or even potentially players. Well, in a recent amendment that has passed into that bill, it eliminates person. So you're looking to say, hey, okay, the celebrity endorsers are probably okay. Players are protected. This is meant to go after companies, largely offshore, that are taking and going through loopholes to offer, gambling, for more or less, or lack of a better term. And so here you are. You've already seen some suppliers who are legal operators or legal suppliers and do supply legal operators say, hey, wait, you can't offer these games and do things like that. So already, without it even passing, you're seeing it kind of work in some of the ways it's meant to.
Yeah. Well, Pat, great stuff. As always, enjoy your week. I'm sure we'll catch up again soon. Thanks for coming on NewsWire.
Thanks as always, Craig.
All right, busy time for Jacob Camenker from USA Today. Training camp's getting started. Jacob is in knee-deep of off-season mode. We are, according to the NFL's social media handle, 77% complete with the NFL's off-season. So we'll bring in Jacob Camenker for the latest around the NFL next on NewsWire.
I showed you the Heisman odds a week or 2 ago, and they had Garrett Nussmeier as the second favorite behind Manning. So Brian Kelly's very excited to have Garrett back at school.
He is no athlete, in my opinion. You can quote me on that. Like, he is a clumsy white dude, and he sucked. I'm being nice now. Now all of a sudden you're talking about him being great? Oh, slow down there, coach.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Devin Booker, do you know, in those 2 years, actually makes more in his salary than the entire Miami Marlins payroll this year, which I think is at like $62 million. That's a 72.5. I'm just doing the math really quickly. So one guy's worth more than 25, but we know how bad the Miami Marlins is. But hey, I just talk hoops.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
No superstar wants to go to Portland there, so you go, oh, well, Dame actually wants to be back here, and this is going to hurt us. It sort of brings back those vibes where Kobe Bryant was in L.A. Great basketball player, horrendous basketball team, but maybe he could sell a couple extra seats and be a star in the building. That's Dame. And also from a perspective of what Dame wants, Dame just doesn't care about championships, and that's okay. Like, he makes a lot of money. He can do that and continue to lose in Portland. Can have it both ways, I guess.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Really would love to know what Jawan Jennings is after. If I were San Francisco, I'd hate to lose him. Not that I think he's ever going to be their best receiver on this football team, but you have a lot of question marks, right? We don't know how good Ricky Pearsall is yet.
We are asking, like, if Ayuk comes back and is healthy, if McCaffrey can be healthy, all these things. So why not just take the thing that you know works and just keep it?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire. Training camps opening around the country. Rookies and vets in some spots, rookies in others. By the end of the week, everybody will be in. And Jacob Camenker is ready to go from USA Today. He covers the National Football League for them and also makes appearances for them here on our network. Jacob, great to have you back here on NewsWire. Feels like it's been a minute, but in a minute, we're going to have the NFL preseason underway.
Yeah, glad to be back, Craig. You know, we're through sort of the June and July NFL doldrums. We've got camps opening up. It's the exciting time of year. We're going to see some of these position battles finally play out, see some of these rookies hit the field for the first time. So I think along with everyone else in the world, I am just excited to get some players back on the field and hey, see what all of this offseason hype for every team is able to turn into.
Yeah, always a fun time around here, too, for SportsGrid. All right, so Panthers open up with rookies, veterans later in the week. The Cowboys have opened up with everyone. They go to California for their training camp every year. Colts, rookies, Chiefs, rookies, and vets, and the Bucks got to keep cool somehow here in Florida somewhere, because that's not going to be the case anywhere in Florida. All right, so let's start off with the Dallas Cowboys here. So they have their training camps in Oxnard, California. They've been doing this for many, many years. And they have one player who's probably deserving of a contract extension that hasn't gotten it, and that is Micah Parsons of the Dallas Cowboys. TJ Watt recently signed the biggest non-quarterback deal in the history of the NFL. And, I got to call it how it is, Jacob. I think TJ Watt's a better player than Micah Parsons. I think TJ Watt is the most valuable defensive player in the National Football League, but that doesn't mean it can't set the bar for what Micah Parsons wants. He's in camp. Will they get the...
Yeah, I think they're eventually going to get a deal done. Whether it happens before the season or right on eve of it, I'm not sure. We've seen in the past with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, they like to take it right up to that week one wire. I don't know if there's something that accelerates negotiations at that point, but I do think Micah Parsons will get a massive contract. I think he'll probably end up getting paid more than TJ Watt in terms of average annual value and potentially total contract value. And the reason for this is simple. I don't disagree with your point, Craig. I think TJ Watt is the more proven, better veteran player who has a long history of production. But Micah Parsons is just 26 years old. He's one of the fastest edge players in the league. And I think the Cowboys are going to find themselves having to pay a little bit on future production and say to themselves, hey, this guy the next 4 or 5 years might end up being the NFL's best pass rusher as TJ Watt and Myles Garrett get sort of further into their careers and maybe into the twilight of them. So I think you're looking at a situation where TJ Watt got $41 million in average annual value. Myles Garrett, I believe, was right at $40 million. I think Micah Parsons will go by them. It's just a question of how much. Will it be that $42 million type of figure? Or are the Cowboys going to say, hey, we'll give you a 4-year deal, but we'll give you $45 million a year as part of that? So I think it will be interesting. It's going to be a hefty price tag. But, for my money, if I'm the Cowboys, I feel like I have to pay Micah Parsons. He's just too good and too valuable for their defense to let him walk or risk having him go somewhere else in free agency eventually.
Yeah, I think like you, it gets done. It just may not be when we want to see it done, but it'll get done eventually. Meanwhile, will this contract extension come for Terry McLaurin? I'm not so sure. He's like I want to say it's a strange situation just because he's not your prototypical number one wide receiver in the NFL. He's not like 6'5" and he's not 26. All those things are sort of working against him. But how does Washington not look at this and say, my gosh, the connection that he had with Jaden Daniels last year was incredible? I think they almost have to somehow figure out a way to make this happen, even though it's not your prototypical CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson extension. Something's got to give here.
I agree with you. I think the Commanders eventually are going to look at this and say, why are we haggling over this amount of money? I don't think he's going to reset the market like you said. I think he'll be paid like a number one receiver because of the connection he has with Daniels. And the other thing to keep in mind here is because Daniels is on a rookie contract for the next 3 years plus his 5th-year option, he's not going to be overly expensive for Washington during these next 4 years. So they can afford to look at McLaurin and say, hey, if we give him a 3 or 4 year extension, we have the cap space available because we're allocating less of our cap and available cash to quarterback than typical teams in the league. That's why having a rookie quarterback who's playing at a very high level is one of the best ways to have early playoff success as we've seen in recent years. But I think that the two sides will eventually look at each other and say, hey, we can bridge this gap. We know you're our number one receiver. We value you as that. We think you're a good complement for Deebo Samuel. So I think it will eventually get done. But it has lingered a bit longer than I expected. But I think that's probably just Washington trying to extract as much value in these contract negotiations as it can before they eventually look at it and say, all right, we just got to get this deal done and make sure our offense is intact for the season.
Feels like they got to get that done, even with Deebo Samuel there. We had a contract extension announcement. George Karlaftis with the Chiefs, 4 years, $93 million. We touched on that earlier. The Seahawks made a move, which maybe comes as a surprise with the timing. I guess not the player necessarily, but the timing, maybe, Jacob, with getting rid of Noah Fant right before training camp opens. Like, they had a lot of time to figure this out. Maybe it could have been during the draft, or it could have been in June. And then also, Shamar Stewart still has not reported. Apparently, there was some talk of him going back to college. That's not going to happen. I guess let me ask you about Noah Fant here. I mean, I think he's on easily the back nine of his career at this point. A lot of fans I see on social media saying, oh, we got to sign this guy. We got to sign this guy. Something left here with Noah Fant? What gives?
I think there's a little something left here. I think the Seahawks probably held on to him to this point because they were hoping to trade him for something. And I imagine nothing ended up happening. And they looked at his price tag, which was, I believe, between $8 or $9 million for this season in cap and cash. So they were thinking, we got to move on from him. They have A.J. Barner, who looked good in flashes as a rookie last year and spent a second-round pick on Elijah Arroyo, one of the top tight ends in this year's draft class. So I think they were ready to move on from him as a veteran. But I think Fant is like a number 2 tight end for a contender who can play a lot. I think that would interest me. And I almost been looking around trying to find a good landing spot for him. And I've settled on, what if he were to go back to the Broncos and sort of back up Evan Ingram there and just continue to add to the depth with Sean Payton's team, which loves their tight ends, you know? So I think Fant will land somewhere. I don't think he's a star player, but hey, if you have him as number 2 tight end, you're going to be very happy with what he can do in that role.
Agreed. All right, Jacob, don't go too far. I'm sure you and I are going to be talking every week coming up soon. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire. Appreciate it.
No problem, Craig. Take care, and thanks for having me.
All right, NFL news with Jacob Camenker from USA Today. Coming up next, time for some last licks. Manny Pacquiao with a big fight over the weekend. How did it go? Tell you next.
And I showed you the Heisman odds a week or two ago, and they had Garrett Nussmeier as the second favorite behind Manning. So Brian Kelly's very excited to have Garrett back at school.
He is no athlete, in my opinion. You can quote me on that. Like, he is a clumsy white dude, and he sucked. Like, I'm being nice now. Now, all of a sudden, you're talking about him being great? Oh, slow down there, coach.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Devin Booker, do you know, in those 2 years, actually makes more in his salary than the entire Miami Marlins payroll this year, which I think is at like $62 million. That's a 72.5. I'm just doing the math really quickly. So one guy's worth more than 25, but we know how bad the Miami Marlins is. But hey, I just talk hoops.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
No superstar wants to go to Portland there, so you go, oh, well, Dame actually wants to be back here, and this is going to hurt us. It sort of brings back those vibes when Kobe Bryant was in L.A. Great basketball player, horrendous basketball team, but maybe he could sell a couple extra seats and be a star in the building. That's Dame. And also from a perspective of what Dame wants, Dame just doesn't care about championships, and that's okay. Like, he makes a lot of money. He can do that and continue to lose in Portland. Can have it both ways, I guess.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Really would love to know what Jawan Jennings is after. If I were San Francisco, I'd hate to lose him. Not that I think he's ever going to be their best receiver on this football team, but you have a lot of question marks, right? We don't know how good Ricky Pearsall is yet.
We are asking, like, if Ayuk comes back and is healthy, if McCaffrey can be healthy, all these things. So why not just take the thing that you know works and just keep it?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Pushing 50 in boxing, right? It's kind of like it's happened a lot in the past. Guys retire, they come back. We'll get to the latest with Manny Pacquiao. Also, Travis Hunter is fronting a new video game ahead of the NFL season, and Shiloh Sanders, rookie with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, gets a nice surprise. Time now as we wrap up the show with some last licks. All right, in case you missed it over the weekend, I know it's been a really long time since you've heard the name Manny Pacquiao, and that's because he's almost 50 years old, but he did have a fight on Saturday night. And I honestly didn't see a lot of it, but according to the people who watched the fight and according to the people who graded the fight, they said that he had a really good chance to win. But in the end, it ended up being a draw, and that really caught the ire of a lot of boxing fans saying that Pacquiao had actually won the fight. So naturally, anytime this happens in boxing, it does raise the question, was there another agenda? Did something happen that we missed? Look, the bottom line is whenever this happens, it's always setting up for a second fight. Pacquiao, after the fight, said he would do it. I don't know when it's going to happen. I mean, this guy, can he legitimately fight at 48, 49, and 50 years old? We've seen this in the past, but more of the celebrity type, as there's just more known about concussions and health and things of that nature. But he looked to be in pretty good shape in this fight and actually did a pretty good job. So get ready to see potentially another Pacquiao fight coming in the next couple of years. All right, we know we're going to see Travis Hunter on the NFL field. We don't know if he's going to be playing offense. We don't know if he's going to be playing defense. Is he going to play both? It seems that most people believe that he is going to be the starting wide receiver on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Don't know if he's going to play defense. Don't know how much of two-way he's going to be playing. But here's what we do know, is that Travis Hunter is now one of the faces of this game that you can play on your phone called Clash of Clans. Now, truth be told, I've seen a lot of advertising for Clash of Clans. I've never downloaded it on the app, never played it. I don't know that anybody who has, but apparently within the game, he is in the game and can be part of what you're doing. And by the way, I don't know how he can be a two-way player in this game as well, but that is sort of what they're advertising here. Hunter, by the way, has said that he is a huge gamer and is playing all the time on the different apps and different games as well. But this is just the nature of professional sports, guys, to be fronting video games, not Madden, not college football, but Travis Hunter now involved with Clash of Clans. And I'm assuming that he got paid a pretty penny to do so. Okay, finally, let's end with a really cool story. Shiloh Sanders, not the most popular Sanders in the NFL draft. We know that. That's Shedeur, not the most popular in the Sanders family. We know that. That's Dion. But Shiloh Sanders is now a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he did a really cool event at KFC. In fact, for one day, for charity, he ended up serving in the drive-through window working for KFC. And you may have seen this video go viral. If not, I'll tell you all about it. So Sanders, who is in the video and taking somebody's order, the guy pulls up into drive-through. We've all done this before. And he's actually wearing the jersey of Shiloh Sanders. And Sanders starts freaking out. He says, wow, this is super cool. Because let's be honest, how many people really have a Tampa Bay Buccaneers Shiloh Sanders jersey? This kid has not played it down in the NFL. And by the way, we have no idea if he's even going to play it down in the NFL. He was a good player in college, but sometimes these kids don't make it. So Sanders stopped, signed the jersey, and also gave the fan free meals at KFC. I think the number I saw was 5. So 5 free meals he gave in the future for representing Shiloh with his jersey too. In fact, by the way, Sanders said it wasn't the first time he has seen the jersey. It may have been the second time, but it was the first time he had signed a Shiloh Sanders jersey with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So good to have a Sanders story at the end that actually is a positive story to end the show. We don't get very many of those. All right, that'll do it for our program today. Thanks to Jacob Camenker from USA Today, also Tom Vecchio talking some baseball with us, and also Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report. Don't forget, for the very latest on this dominance of Scotty Scheffler, coming up at noon, we've got Smiley Kaufman with his show at 12 Eastern. That's followed by Scott Farrell Coast to Coast at 3 o'clock, Front Office Sports at 6. We've got game time decisions coming your way following that with the latest in Major League Baseball. I believe the WNBA is back later in the week. They're on a break this week. And in-game live game day. And if I'm not mistaken, Gabe is on tour. I'm not sure if he's hosting Sports Rage tonight, but I think that he and the band have gotten back together. They're on tour in Canada somewhere. Thanks again to our director, Luke, and for my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. Hope you enjoyed this edition of NewsWire. We're going to do it again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern for the latest in Major League Baseball updates in the NFL, NBA, and college football as well. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Keep it locked right here to NewsWire. Golf coming up next. And then, of course, Farrell Coast to Coast at 3 o'clock. See you then.